Welcome back to Wyckmoore.
The Mystical Realm of Wyckmoore, Part 7. One at a time. The bridge swayed as though it knew they were hesitating. Far below, the clouds churned, their swirling white and gray pierced now and then by sudden flashes. Not lightning but strange vertical sparks, as if something vast and metallic moved far beneath. Rowan kept her eyes on the silver gate. The closer she stood to it, the harder it was to breathe. It wasn't just the air thickening, it was the weight of possibility pressing against her ribs, demanding she imagine what could be beyond. A home without shadows. A table where her parents' laughter was still real. The forest before it burned. She shook her head, but the visions clung like dew on her skin. The keeper stepped forward, his lantern's flame bending toward the bars like it was drawn to them. "This place," he murmured, "is older than either of us. It chooses paths the way a river chooses its bend, and those who step wrong drown." The siren tilted her head, hair shifting like dark water. "It's not the gate that decides," she said softly. "It's the heart that touches it." She let her fingers brush one of the bars, and immediately pulled back with a hiss. Her skin was unburned, but her eyes widened. It saw me." The star-crowned hunter's voice cut through the fog. "That is its purpose. It shows you yourself before it lets you through. Most fail there. They can't stand the truth of what they are." Rowan turned to him. "And you think you'll pass?" He smiled faintly, the silver points of his crown glinting. "I already have. Many times. The gate remembers me." The bridge groaned again, the segments shifting apart. The gap behind them widened until the section they'd come from drifted fully away, swallowed by cloud. They were now sealed in on this last fragment, the gate looming ahead like the mouth of a great waiting beast. The keeper tightened his grip on his lantern. "One at a time," he said grimly. "That means whoever touches first decides everything. The rest may follow, or not at all." Rowan's pulse hammered in her ears. If she went first, she could choose safety for the others. But the hunter could simply follow her and take control. If she hesitated, he would step through and they'd be lost. The siren met her gaze, her voice barely more than a ripple in the mist. "Sometimes the only way to win is not to let the enemy know they've lost until it's too late." The hunter stepped closer, spear point angled toward the ground. A deceptive stance, but Rowan could feel the strike coiled in his muscles. Enough delay. Who will be first? The gate flared brighter, the bars almost transparent now, and for a heartbeat Rowan thought she saw a shape beyond. A vast hallway of light lined with doors. Each one different. Each one waiting. She had seconds to decide. The keeper was ready to shield her. The siren's song was building under her breath. And the hunter was smiling as though he already knew the outcome. The air thrummed. Someone moved. Through the gate. The moment of stillness shattered. It wasn't Rowan who moved first. It wasn't even the star-crowned hunter. It was the siren. With a motion so fluid it was almost invisible, she slipped between Rowan and the keeper, her bare feet soundless on the trembling bridge. Her hand brushed the silver bars. And the world stopped. Not just slowed, stopped. The clouds froze in mid-swirl, the distant flashes beneath them locked in place. The sway of the bridge hung suspended, every creak silenced. Only Rowan, the keeper, the siren, and the hunter still moved. If moved was the right word for the slow, dreamlike way their breaths and blinks came. The siren's expression was unreadable. "This is the moment it shows you yourself," she said, her voice echoing as if through deep water. She turned and Rowan saw what the siren saw, not with her own eyes but with the gate's. A dim shore under a moonless sky. Waves breaking on black sand. A younger siren kneeling by the water, singing to something in the surf that never answered her call. It was heartbreak made visible, a wound the siren carried like a secret jewel. The hunter's eyes narrowed. Pathetic. The gate should close on you. But the bars pulsed and parted. Light poured through, not blinding but impossibly deep, like stepping into the first dawn ever made. Beyond it lay that long hallway Rowan had glimpsed before, lined with countless doors. Some of wood, some of metal, some carved from stone, others seeming to be made of glass, mist, or starlight itself. The siren turned to Rowan, her voice a whisper only she could hear. Follow my lead. When I choose my door, you choose yours before he does. The hunter's crown flared brighter. You can't split the gate's choice. It will reject one of you. Perhaps, the siren said, stepping through, but I'm not the one it's testing. Rowan's pulse spiked. She stepped forward and felt the keeper's hand on her shoulder. Think, he said. Once you go in, there's no coming back. The door you open is the road you walk until the end. Behind them, the gate's light was beginning to dim, as though it could only remain open for so long. The hunter was already shifting his stance to follow. The siren had vanished among the endless doors. Rowan was next. The hall of doors. Rowan stepped through the silver gate. The sensation was nothing like walking through a doorway. It was like being unstitched from the place she'd been and sewn into a new one, the thread of her being pulled taut, then released. She found herself in a corridor so vast it seemed to have no end, only a gentle curve that might have been the world bending back on itself. The ceiling shimmered like pearl, arching high above her. The floor was smooth, cool stone that reflected light without casting shadows. And the doors. They weren't merely lining the walls. They were woven into them as if each had always been a part of the hall and would always be. Some stood open just enough to reveal hints. A warm forest path beneath golden leaves. A roaring waterfall with mist so thick it beaded on her skin. A dark library where the shelves stretched so high that ladders floated between them without touching the floor. Others were sealed tight, their surfaces covered in symbols that shifted when she tried to focus on them. Far ahead, the siren moved without hesitation. Her hair caught the hall's light like moonlit water, her bare feet whispering against the stone. She passed dozens of doors without slowing, her eyes scanning for one that called to her, or perhaps one she feared to find. The keeper entered behind Rowan, his lantern dim here, its flame more like an ember. This place, he murmured, is older than time in your world. Each door is a truth. Once opened, it becomes your horizon. A low hum rose from the walls, not a sound but a vibration that seemed to pulse in Rowan's bones. It was as if the doors themselves were aware of her, some leaning forward like eager listeners, others retreating as though her presence was unwelcome. Then the air shifted. The star-crowned hunter stepped through the gate. He looked different here, sharper, taller, the points of his crown glowing faintly as if drawing power from the hall itself. His gaze swept the doors with practiced speed, and Rowan realized he was looking for something specific, and feared what might happen if he found it first. The siren stopped before a door of deep green wood, carved with waves that rose and fell in an endless loop. She placed her hand against it and the carving moved, the waves parting to reveal the glint of something beneath. Go, she said without looking back. Find yours. Rowan moved along the hall, her fingertips grazing doors that felt warm or cold, rough or impossibly smooth. She passed one that smelled of pine needles, another that seemed to hum with distant thunder. Then she found it. A simple wooden door, worn and unremarkable, except for the faint light leaking from the keyhole. When she leaned closer, she could smell rain-soaked earth and hear, impossibly, the soft sound of her own laughter from years ago. The hunter was closing in fast. His hand was already on a door wreathed in silver mist, the symbols on it flaring like sparks. The hall's hum grew louder, a warning, a heartbeat, a countdown. Rowan gripped the handle of her door. The wood was warm. The air around it thickened. He had to decide now. The door's choice. Rowan's hand tightened on the worn handle. It fit her grip perfectly, as though it had been carved for her alone. The hum in the hall of doors shifted, no longer a distant vibration but a rising resonant tone that seemed to come from the stone beneath her feet, the pearl ceiling above, and from deep inside her own chest. The moment she began to turn the handle, the hall reacted. The air grew heavy, pulling at her like an incoming tide. Light spilled from the thin gap around the door, not in a steady beam but in a slow, pulsing rhythm that matched her heartbeat. Behind her, the hunter froze mid-step. "That door is not yours to open," he said sharply, voice stripped of its usual calm. But there was something in his tone, not command, not threat, but recognition. The keeper's lantern flickered. "Rowan," he said quietly, "once it chooses you, there's no undoing it." The siren had already vanished into her own door, swallowed by a rush of water and a scent of salt. Rowan hesitated only for a breath. If she didn't open it now, the hunter might, and she knew instinctively that if he stepped through, whatever lay beyond would be twisted into something it was never meant to be. She turned the handle. The door swung inward without a sound. Light poured out, warm, golden, and alive. It carried the scent of wet earth after rain, the metallic tang of storm air, and the distant rolling sound of, was it thunder? Or waves? When she stepped across the threshold, the floor beneath her vanished. She was falling. Not down, but through fragments of herself, flickers of memory and possibility rushing past in a kaleidoscope of sensation. She saw herself as a child chasing fireflies, herself older standing on a cliff above a black sea, herself holding a map with names she couldn't read. The falling slowed. Rowan landed barefoot in soft, damp grass. She stood in a vast open field beneath a twilight sky, the horizon blurred by drifting silver mist. In the distance, a single tree rose, enormous, ancient, its branches sprawling like the veins of the world. And there, leaning against its trunk, was someone waiting for her. They lifted their head as she approached. "You took your time," the stranger said with a faint smile. Their voice was familiar, achingly so, though Rowan was certain she had never met them before. Before she could speak, the light behind her shifted. The hunter had found a way through. But he was not alone. A second figure stepped out of the hall with him, their face hidden in shadow, and the grass beneath their feet withered as they walked. The stranger by the tree's smile faded. "I was hoping we'd have more time before they caught up," they said, straightening. "But I suppose we'll have to begin now."
Thank you for listening. If you would like to be notified about upcoming releases to the Wyckmoore series, please subscribe.